What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. This is Scotty Boy. I wanted to talk today a little bit about the whole DMV studying process and getting your CLP, your Commercial Learner's Permit. I kind of, in thinking of what to put in this video, a lot of it y'all already know. I mean, it's a DMV visit, and I'm sure that's different in every state. You know, you hear horror stories about the DMV. I can't say that the DMV that I go to is actually pretty good. They're pretty efficient. They're usually very friendly. So I can't really complain about that. But again, that's different state to state, DMV to DMV. When it comes down to studying for your test, you know, I've watched vlogs just like you guys have. Some will tell you you absolutely should read the DMV manual cover to cover and study from that. And, you know, may or may not go to an app as kind of a backup. And then there's the other side. The other side says you're going to learn all that stuff on the road and in your training. So don't bother with that. Just memorize the questions using an app. You know, memorize the questions and answers. And I kind of went for the happy medium, I think. When I did it, it took me 3 apps to get to one where I felt like I was actually making headway, you know, making traction with, you know, memorizing everything. But what I did on the first app, and all but one that I did look at out of the 3, you know, they have the option that you can actually read your state's manual via the app. So that was the first thing I did, was I did read the manual cover to cover. I didn't stop to study or try to memorize anything. I just ran through it. I can even say I skimmed a lot of it. I just kind of ran through it just to get familiar with it, and then started working through the questions on the app. And as I said, it took me 3 of them. The first app that I got, and I don't remember the name of the first 2, but the first one I had just functionally wasn't very good. I think it was just a bad app. But I wasn't feeling like I was making headway. I'd learn a few questions and maybe feel like I'd banked those for good, but I was struggling to feel like I was really, I mean, it's kind of feels like a monumental task to learn all that stuff, and I just didn't feel like I was making the right progress. Second one, the app seemed to be working just fine, but it just wasn't set up in a way that that helps me learn. So I moved on. The third one that I got was the DMV Genie. And, you know, I started messing around with that one, and it was set up in a way that it really helped my learning process. You know, most of them have some form of, you know, either you bookmark questions that give you trouble, or every question that you miss goes into a separate bank that you can every so often go in and kind of clean it out, as though it's like just a mini test of all the ones that you've struggled with. So the DMV Genie was set up really, really well in that regard, and it helped me. So it was working so well that I opted to go ahead and pay there's an application fee, I'm sorry, a subscription fee to open up the whole application. And I went ahead and did it. It's a hefty fee. It's the biggest phone subscription I've ever done. I think it was $19.99 a month, but I knew I wouldn't be using it more than a month, maybe 2, and then I'd stop. And you know, this is your career we're talking about, so I'm hoping that $20 to $40 will very soon become rather inconsequential. So I went ahead and did it, and it opened up the thing, you know, where you had access before to maybe 1 or 2 tests under each of your, you know, general knowledge and the endorsements. This opened it up to 4 or 5 tests, and then also, as I recall, it opens up the exam feature, I think it was. But anyway, you go from having access to maybe a couple hundred questions to over 1,000, all of which supposedly can show up on your test. So yeah, I was glad I did that, because this one, the DMV Genie, is set up in a way, at least for my brain, that I was very quickly starting to gain headway. And in a few days, where I'd struggled before, in a few days with the DMV Genie, I was feeling pretty proficient. And you know, and then of course I was using it for well over a month. So when I went in for my test, I was pretty confident in the ones that, you know, at least everything that I saw in the app I had down pretty good. Now, as for the actual DMV process, I don't know what to say. I mean, everybody out there has been to the DMV, and it's different for every state. Mine's pretty good. I've never had any trouble with the one I go to. In Virginia, if it helps anybody, you need to bring 2 proofs of residence, your birth certificate and your current regular driver's license. No trouble there. They do give you the eye exam. I opted to do it with my glasses on, just knowing I didn't even bother trying to not be restricted. I want to wear my glasses when I'm driving from now on, so I didn't bother with that. But yeah, the process went smoothly. In Virginia, they take your picture, they sit you at a kiosk with a little computer, and set that computer up with the endorsements that you asked for, along with your general knowledge. One thing that was different in Virginia, so you might want to be prepared for. A lot of the vlogs said that you have the option to skip questions, and then once you hit the minimum number required to pass, it stops. That wasn't the case in Virginia. I don't know why. You could skip questions, but you had to do all 50 or 30 or 20 depending on the test. So it almost didn't make any sense to skip, but I did. I skipped questions that I saw that were not in the app, and that will happen. The app you choose is not 100%. So you will get ones that you've never seen before. It's kind of a tiny wave of panic goes over you. So I did skip those and come back to it at the end, but it made me nervous because I was expecting that it would stop at some point. And I'm hitting, like on my general knowledge, I was hitting like question 48. And I'm thinking, God, did I miss that many questions, So a little wave of panic, and, the last button you hit before you get your score. I was really not thinking I passed, but I passed all of my endorsements the first time. My general knowledge, passed that too. It wasn't really that difficult if you prepare for it. The only thing I'll offer, and I don't know if this is helpful or not, but I remember back when I was in high school, I took a class on the SAT. It wasn't like a knowledge class. It was kind of how to beat the system type of thing. And I guess that's the kind of thing I'll offer here. Take it or leave it. But for someone who actually has seen over 1,000 questions and memorized them, I think it comes from at least a position of knowledge and experience. So what I would say is, if you hit a question that you are truly have no idea what the answer, it's a true guess, there are some patterns that I noticed with all the questions that may help you make an educated guess. And for one, any of the questions that had an all of the above, or both of the above, that kind of thing, not always, but almost always, that's the answer. It's the one that says all of the above. Again, this is just if you're having to make a guess. You're trying to increase your odds of picking the right one. Another thing is, look at the adjectives in the answers. If you see gently, carefully, that kind of thing, that's usually going to be your answer. Anything that talks about speeding up or hitting the brakes usually is the wrong answer. The emphasis of most of the questions is to lay off the accelerator and lay off the brakes, in most questions. In fact, I think there's only one question, at least on the Virginia one, that I recall saying anything about speeding up, and I think that was under the tanker, talking about going around like an exit ramp or something, with the surge, that it's a good thing to actually speed up a teeny bit to kind of combat that. So again, those two things might help you a little bit. Let's see. There was a third one, I'm kind of blanking on it. But anyway, that just take that for what it's worth. It's just a suggestion that there are some patterns to the question. Oh, I know what the third one was. Length. Usually the longest, most involved answer is the correct one. So if you see an A that's really short, B really short, and then a really extensive C, go for C. So anyway, that might get you an extra point. Anyway, take it or leave it. But that's really all I got to say on that process. If you study for it, you're going to do fine. Make sure that I got a trainee, so I'm actually right now heading to the DMV because there's a little something on my actual learner's permit that I have a little question on. I will bring it up again in another video if it turns out to be anything. I'm not going to mention it now. But I'm trying to dot every I, cross every T, so I'm going to run in there just to ask the question on it. And like I said, if it becomes an issue, I will point that out in another video so you can be aware of it. But I'll stop it there. I'll see you next time. Remember, like, comment, subscribe. Show me any support you can. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks a lot. See you next time.